struck by a chill or a vision of ancient grace, and he gazed with a stare at my nut-brown hair till the blood rushed to his face. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no lad I've seen has a look so keen as I saw here in County Down. As he tripped o'er his feet, for a lad so bold he was knocked from his hold by a girl that he chanced to meet. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no lad I've met hasn't a name to set against the star of the County Down. His fingers on the door. If he's half the wit as he's got the grit, I might like him a wee bit more. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, ne'er a lad I've sought has a heart so caught by the star of the County Down. Snow on the heather, smoke from the roofs. I stand on the ridgeline, breathing the proof. Sky like a pale bowl, frost in my hair, name on my tongue tip, thin in the air. I call across the pines, he's yellow, high and wild and wide. If you're lost, then follow the sound turning and gone. Wind takes the branches, braids them in song. Far in the darkness, something replies, echo or answer, tears in my eyes. Where are you now? I won't fall The fire smokes black when she walks through the door, a shadow that stretches across the stone floor. She carries the staff, she carries the sight, a piece of the morning in the heart of the night.
Satan, 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 Satan. The staff hits the wood where the kings used to stand. Fate is a needle in a trembling hand. You asked for the rune, you asked for the flame, but you're too weak to carry the weight of your name.
Allah, the thread is unweaving. Allah, the truth is bereaving. The vulva is spinning, the spirit and bone. The seeds of your ending have already been sown. She sees the high hall, she sees it in ash, the glint of the gold, the sting of the
is full up. The weird is full up.
Across the foam where the gray sea dies, I see the gold in your mortal eyes. Leave the iron machine, leave the rust, leave the men who turn to dust.
I see the light, I see the shore, but my heart is tied to the threshing floor. How can I ride where the shadows go, when the wind of home is all I know?
Tiananong is calling.
Beyond the mist where the sea is new,
Leave the world of the gray and the falling. Hashim, Harun, I am calling you. 10,000 winters in a single breath, the land of youth, the end of death. Time is a cage, time is a lie. Come to the land where we never die.
I took the saddle, I left the clay, but the ghost of home wouldn't fade away. 300 years passed like a sigh, while I watched the golden birds fly by.
Hashim, my love, stay on the horse.
I must see the hills, I must find my source.
If you touch the ground, the years will strike.
The world is changed, it is nothing alike. I touched the ground and the ground turned gray. My brothers are bones, they have blown away. My skin is a shroud, my heart is lead. I wake among the ancient dead.
The veil is thin, the light is long. We are the pulse, we are the song. You chose the shore, you left the tide. The mist has closed on the mortal side.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another beautiful night in the tavern. I hope that you're all well. I know that I have been absent this last week, and so is the lady. We're both dealing with our own poor decision making in regards to exercise and sleep. But we are back. We are well. Legendary Captain Hoodie for 65 months in a row. Would you look at that? What an absolute legend. Let's go ahead and give Matty a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Matty snitched you did not sleep. Did not sleep when? I slept last night. $65 months, it does feel like forever. It is an absolutely long time. Milu, you have a 75 stream streak. That's incredible. 75 days in a row. That's a year. No, because we do 3. So 75 days would be... That's half a year's worth of story times. Yeah, the lady has been terrible about going to sleep. I've been going to bed a little bit earlier than she has this last week. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on this week, and then probably for another, Maddie's a snitch. You know what they say, snitches get stitches, right? So if Maddie's getting free medical care, why wouldn't he snitch, right? Snitches wind up in ditches. That's also true. They have on occasion wound up in ditches. These are things that happen. As a reminder, friends, tonight is our adult storytime night. We are... Oh, hang on. Okay, no, that is working. This is our adult storytime night, so the book we read this evening is a little bit more mature. It deals with a little bit more extreme and mature themes. We are in Prince of the Blood by Raymond E. Feist. And it can get a little bit intense. It deals with a lot of violence and nudity and things like that. So if you are a child of any kind, you might not want to be present for this, and you probably shouldn't be in here anyways. And if you have a sensitive constitution, this book can get intense. But I promise I will be back on Tuesday of next week, so we can have a proper family-friendly story time for everyone. Nudity, are you threatening us? I would never threaten you with nudity, Maddie. I would just do it. Why would it be in the microwave?
I don't know.
Let me. I'll get. Here's the hint. You wanted another hint? I'll give you another hint. You are going to be really mad at yourself when you finally find it. Because it's really obvious. Frost, hello, my friend. That's all right. Look. You don't need to overdo it with yourself, my friend. But Bobby, hello. Who's the madam? The madam of what? Rain, hello. Welcome in. Good to see you. Everyone grab a seat. I'm giving everybody a couple of minutes to jump in. For some reason, the ads ran early. So, we got a little bit of time. But I'm going to give everybody a little bit to trickle in so that we can let everybody who's going to get here, and then we can start doing story time. Tyson is in, Molly Sue is in, Santana is in, Destiny is in, Erin is in, the bear is in, Frostbeard, Erin, Matty, Milu, and of course, I think I said bear, but of course the bear is here, and then we got Rain over on the TikTok portal. Nobody knows over on the YouTube portal. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. Berkey, hello, hello. I love the music. Reminds me of a reboot of Battlestar Galactica. Oh, that's... Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Jacob, hello, and Kasi, hello. It's good to see you both. Welcome in. The madam... Oh, that's Erin. Erin is the one who's constantly selling Matty. She's made a whole business out of it. But hello, my friends. Good to see you. I'll give you one more hint. It's not in the pantry. Georgia, hello, welcome in. Good to see you as well. Petra, hello, welcome back. Good to see you all. We're gonna get started here in about 5 minutes. It's Rain from TikTok. Yes, it is. I'm on the clock app now. Yes, you are. So we're pretty far through. We're actually very near the end of this book. We're gonna have to vote on a new book soon. I think we'll probably try to aim for a new series, since we've done quite a bit of Feist. We've done almost a year of Feist. I think we can change it up a bit. We might maybe do something a little bit shorter, but I think that what we'll likely end up doing is start a new popular series, perhaps. I'm making dinner, late dinner due to work. Spaghetti. We had meat sauce and shelled pasta the other night. The lady made it. It was delicious. Danny McNeil, hello and welcome in. Very good to see you. Grab a seat, settle in. We're about to get started. Oh, it has been a while since we've done Phantom Tollbooth, but that's a family-friendly book, though. This is the adult book. What about a Dragonlance novel? We could probably do... So the ones that are currently sitting at the top is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. What is the other one? By Brandon Sanderson, the Stormlight Archives, or the whatever the first book, whatever his primary series is, we're going to be working there. And then there's another one. Oh, the Dritz Urin novels, the Salvatore. Tavern Keeper, you are quite modest. You're a very wise man, and anyone who has listened to you speak for any length of time knows you're a person of substance. And it's also, I may ask, what is the meaning of life? I have two answers to this question, and neither one of them is very satisfying. So the meaning of life, as in what is the purpose of all life, is the goal of all life is death. The goal of everything that lives is to eventually die. Or a Dan Brown novel, Da Vinci Code, since it's adult story time. We haven't really had anything recommended outside of, like, fantasy and sci-fi. So something that's just like more of a mystery fiction would probably, I don't know, maybe. We'll see. We'll have to see. Tomorrow's my birthday, and it's a very pleasant place to be leading up to it. Well, Danny, happy birthday. You've made it another rotation around the sun. So very glad that you're joining us in your pre-birthday celebration. If anybody who follows the tavern over on the Facebook portal wants to go and give Danny a happy birthday, go ahead and do that. Ahoy, mateys, Pirate Grandan. Much love and good vibes. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you welcoming. So glad to have you. We got baked potato for supper. Also, I hope that we finish the current author, even if we take a break. Yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to Feist. I think that we could probably use a break though, because this is now 5 novels by him. This is quite a bit of reading. We did the full Harry Potter series, but even that I feel was a bit of a lot. It was quite a bit. Back to Berkey, back to your question. The goal of all life is death. And that's sort of the practical discussion, that's sort of the practical answer, is that when you are born, you're destined to die. Now, the meaning of life, why are we here, comes with a couple of different caveats. It kind of depends on what you believe. If you believe that there is a higher power who's created us and there's something there, then you would kind of assign it whatever that individual belief comes from. A lot of the beliefs of how man comes into existence are sort of like is just kind of done for fun. And if you believe that we came from nothing, we came from nowhere, then the goal of life is whatever you believe it is. Jessica, hello and good evening. Welcome in. I personally like the Christian viewpoint of what the meaning of life is. And when God created man, when the God of the Bible created man, he said that the rule of man was to be fruitful and multiply, to be stewards of the earth, to accumulate knowledge, to create dominion over the earth, which dominion a lot of people take as, oh, you're supposed to dominate the planet. No. Dominion means mastery, and mastery does not necessarily mean control. I think that the meaning of life is to be as excellent as you can be, given the infinite potential that is inside of you, and to go forward being a steward of the world, to take and gain wisdom, to gain knowledge, to gain skill, to discover the mysteries of the place that we live, and then to record those in stories and pass them on to the next generation. That is what I believe the meaning of life is. I think that it makes the most sense, and I think that it eliminates this idea of being, maybe not necessarily being super self-important, because a lot of people have this very self-important idea about what the meaning of life is. And I don't think that the meaning of life is overwhelmingly profound. I think that it's very simple. Our job, our purpose is to exist here on the planet as stewards of the planet. Not necessarily rulers in a way, but as stewards. I think the word steward is the best word. And then to take all of the knowledge and wisdom that we gain in that time and pass it along to the next generation. I think that is the purpose of man. And that's what I won't say I've always believed that. I've gone through eras of nihilism in my life. And God, I think that a part of that is love. Like, I think that being a steward to the planet is love. I think taking and lovingly learning skills and gathering knowledge, I think that is a part of love. I think love is a very broad and complex thing that narrows down to, love is not always a feel-good thing. Love is a constructive thing. I think that love is something that builds, not necessarily something that makes us feel good. Because if you are a raging alcoholic, it's not loving of me to tell you, hey, keep having fun and keep enjoying your life by being an alcoholic. It is loving of me to point to you and say you're destroying your body and your life by doing that. Don't. You're acting a fool. You're acting an idiot. Stop. That is the loving way to approach. And that's not going to make the other person feel good because they're attached to that side of themselves. So that's just me. Jacob, you said, even though I'm a Christian, I believe that it's our job to experience the universe from a human perspective, procreate, help your fellow humans, and be an overall good person. I agree. I think that the term good person is one that I probably don't agree with other people with what that means. I think that to be a good person means to be a good human, and that means that you are a beneficial human to the overall of humanity. I think that's what makes you a good person. I don't think good person is a moral judgment. There's obviously a moral judgment behind good and bad people, but I think that there is a more apt description, and if you do something that benefits yourself and also other humans, I think that's what makes you a good person. And if you do something that is inherently selfish and steals from other people, then that makes you a bad person. Because you are inherently inhibiting or hindering the productive growth of humanity, is how I would put it. Castle, that situation I told you about, they did the right thing. Hell yeah. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Now that's a happy ending, or is it? Because everything's over now, and all that's left is you in the infinite void, Luma. Yeah. Oh, the end of the Mario movie, yes. I like this take and I agree on it. People can definitely have morals without religion. I don't know. See, this is it. I don't usually talk about these things, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I think a lot of people think that they could have morals without religion or without the idea of a higher power. I don't even necessarily mean religion. A lot of people think that they can have morals without a higher power. But if morality is subjective, then everyone's morality is correct, and that's just a weird conversation to get into. Someone passed while climbing Everest today. Authorities found Himalayan there. That's very funny, Punny McPunderson. That's very funny. A lot of people don't appreciate this perspective and would rather poor behavior be enabled. And we see that all throughout the world, is that a lot of people would like to have their behaviors affirmed no matter what it is. And I can never agree with that, because it's completely antithetical to the idea of accountability and responsibility, which are things I was raised with, and I spent a good portion of my life running away from accountability and responsibility. I spent a good portion of my life being a selfish bastard who inflicted myself upon other people and made my irresponsibility other people's problem. And I can't agree that that's a good way to live, because I've personally seen the back end of it. And while a lot of people would say, well, you lived that way, so you're a hypocrite for not allowing other people to live that way, I don't live that way now because I saw how terrible it was. Simply put. I like the term caretaker of the planet. I think that that's fair. Are you mad because of how terribly obvious it was where it is?
No, but I do remember when I did it.
Yeah.
And your hints led me on. Egged me on.
I could have just said nothing. Because is that where a pencil goes? That's no. Just if your mom needs you to do anything else. Everybody says hello, by the way.
Hello.
Dark humor is like food. Not everybody gets it. That's true, Bunny McPunderson. That's true. I'm not a huge Mario movie fan, but Luma. I like the Mario movies. I don't think that they're very good stories. I don't think that they're super well told stories. But Mario isn't. Like, Super Mario is not some crazy intricate world. The movies accurately represented what the games are, and I think that makes it a good movie. Because it managed to translate the ludicrous nature of the world of Mario onto the screen, and that's difficult. That's a hard thing to do, and they did it well. I think they accurately represented the world of Super Mario. I was compared to Luma, my Navy kid. I immediately thought of you. I'm not sure how to take that. I would say it's a compliment. Sandy Ransom, out of sheer curiosity, where did the background come from? This was something that was either put together by the lady or found on the internet. I don't know. She makes some of these assets. We find them online, and some of them she makes. So I don't know where this one came from, but one of those two things. I find Luma hysterical, but wasn't sure how to feel. Hello from Canada, Tanith. Hello. Tanith is one of my favorite characters from the Borderlands games. Also, Mando and Grogu was okay. If you like Season 2 and 3, you'll love it. I've heard a lot of people get upset that it was essentially like a shorter season of The Mandalorian. Survival is basic human instinct. It's logical. If you help your fellow human, that helps you. Yeah, in a way. I think how a lot of people look at resources, and you hear people say this all the time, is that if one human being has resources, then in a way that's keeping it from other people. And there are people who have that perspective that if you have something, I can't have it, so I'm going to take it because I can't have it. I do remember the silly Saturday morning cartoon. Yes. Ludicrous. It is so. Mario games are some of my favorite. Yeah, like the Mario games are hilarious. I just did a short story time on Mario and some of the links to Japanese folklore. Like, so when I was young, I was Christian, unsure at the moment, but know that there's a higher power. And that's a hard place for a lot of people to be. I don't ever tell people what they should believe or where they should go. I don't force my own beliefs on people. I am a storyteller. My job is to pass on stories and to answer questions as honestly and as truthfully as I can. I would say that if you really want to know a thing, give it an earnest look and give it an earnest chance without any sort of... Don't want an outcome, because you're going to want an outcome, and that's how we are as human beings. You're going to want an outcome. Try to go into a thing not wanting a particular outcome, and that's usually the best way to look at it. Songbird, time again for fun and frolics. Howdy Castle and everyone. Hello, Songbird. Darth Nexus, my friend, thank you for the go popular and the heart me. It is indeed butterbeer time. Brian Clifford Brian, I'm sorry I said your name backward. Julas, hello, welcome in. The stories are the better parts of my day. Well, I'm glad. It's an absolute pleasure to have you in the tavern. Absolutely wonderful to see you, and I hope that you'll enjoy yourself. Now, for everyone who's new, I'm seeing some new names. I just want you guys to know that today we're doing live story time, which means I read to you from a book. This is our adult story time night, so these things can be a bit intense. And now, it's not explicit, at least not really explicit, but it does have adult themes in it because that's what this night is for. Ending was a bit scary. Yes. The Avatar movies, the Blue Aliens, are objectively average, but I love them. Sometimes the story can be fun. See, so I have the same problem with the Avatar movies that I have with George R.R. Martin's books. And that's that the first movie was objectively very good. It was probably a 7 or 8 out of 9. It was an above average. The visuals were way above average for their time, especially. But the issue is that every subsequent movie essentially repeats the plot of the previous film and undoes all of the character work that was done in the previous film. And it gets to be so repetitive and tiresome. And I dislike that. But I still think that visually they're stunning, and that, like, it's incredible what was done. But just like if you read through Martin's novels, he uses the exact same patterns and beats with how he writes, so the novels become very predictable, and you sort of fall into a humdrum pattern that where you can see what's going to happen before it happens, and the reason is because of the way that he writes. He writes on an old Mac-DOS computer, and he rewrites the whole novel every time that he edits it. So he has to have these beats so that he can remember what he's doing. And it makes it so that the novels are overwhelmingly predictable. One of the foundations of Freemasonry is that any man who joins us to believe in God, because a man that does not believe in God cannot truthfully be held to a moral vow without belief in deity. Well, and I don't know. I know quite a bit about Freemason lore. I don't know a whole lot about how they operate today, but there is something to be said about society being held to a unilateral standard. We have a lot of issues in modern day society where we have uneven standards, where some people are held to a different standard than others. We see this with the wealthy. Some wealthy people are let off for crimes that people who are less wealthy would not get away with. We see this where, even I live in the United States, there are a lot of folks in the United States who are in government who very clearly do like insider trading and fraud and things like that. And we're not going to talk about politics. I know everybody's got their feelings about politics. I'd rather not bring it in. I'm just using it as an example of that when everybody is not held to a unilateral standard, it makes it very hard to build anything because you're on an uneven foundation. Songbird, thank you for the go popular and for the heart me. Tips to the tavern, keep it always appreciated. Your stories are great to fall asleep to. Just listening is nice. Well, Sandy, I'm glad that you enjoy, and it's a pleasure to have you. We're going to get started here in just a second. I think I'm done answering questions. Examine everything and take what's good. That's really what it is. Lisa says hello, everyone. Hello, good to see you. Welcome in. That Tanuka video almost had me spit my sweat. I'm Dumbledore, Brian Percival, Wulfric Albus. That unilateral standard should be what is right and what is wrong. Yeah, generally. I think that there are some things where it skews on right and wrong being more a matter of opinion than what is actually right or wrong. But there are some things that are clearly, wow, Darth Nexus over 100 comments on live. Absolutely exceptional. I appreciate you for that. Well, I'm saying that the unilateral standard for everyone is like, hey, don't go out and murderize people, right? Like that's a standard we can hold everybody to. There are some things that are a little bit different and can be judged case by case. But when you create a unilaterally uneven standard, or you create a unilateral standard for some and then not for others, it ends up creating an imbalance that causes bickerance and friction. It makes it very difficult to achieve anything or make anything because you can't build on uneven foundations. It's one of the big destroyers of society is when you have, like, take France, right? When Louis XVI was the king in France, one of the reasons why the aristocracy lost, the nobility lost. Yeah, like basic stuff. Don't murderize people, don't sleep with somebody's spouse, don't steal other people's stuff. Like, those are things that everybody can be held to, right? It's it shouldn't be controversial to say. I know some people would say that. Weird Al, is it Weird Al Yankovic, sent me a "You're awesome." Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you. I love Weird Al. Weird Al is my favorite terrible musician. Actually, he's a great musician. Weird Al's a wonderful musician, but a lot of these morals were not common until the more modern day. Well, things like don't murderize people have been common in some societies throughout, some of history, not all. But yes, there are a lot of. I think a lot of people, specifically in the West, take for granted how much of that has developed over the last 100 years, because it's been very common in like America and England and so on, like, don't murderize people, right? Don't steal other people's stuff. And so generally we all look with shame on people who do those things. But there are some places in the world where it's cultural that if you insult somebody, you can be killed. Up until the 1940s, in places like Japan and certain parts of China, you could be executed for insulting somebody of a higher status. So it's something I think that we take, and even in the United States, like in the Wild West of the 1800s, it was not uncommon for people to have street duels just over insults. And now, don't get me wrong, a lot of those people were outlaws, and they would then end up going, having bounties put on their head, dead or alive, and all that. But I think people underestimate how much has changed in the last 80 years or so. The words we have to use now so creators get paid to make me cringe. Yeah, well, I generally don't censor myself with these things. The only reason why I am is because of TikTok. TikTok will literally nuke us down immediately you say anything. Like, they catch all of that. I'm not the kind of person who will, because you can go back and watch any of my story times, and actually a bunch of those have been demonetized on TikTok. I don't make that much money on TikTok. The only reason why I don't want to get banned on live on TikTok is because we have a pretty decent number of folk who come in over there who don't come in anywhere else, and I don't want them to lose access to story times. I don't want to be selfish, is what I'm getting at. Just speaking as a trauma survivor, I'm not saying murderize or I get you, buddy. The words, you're right, but there's a reason for it. I agree with you, and I think it's yeah, 100% it's taken for granted. That happened to some of our presidents, yes, it did. And also, I love telling the story about how Colonel Sanders got into a gunfight at the gas station that he worked at. Jack the Tiger, hello and welcome in. We're very glad you could join us. Grab a seat, settle in. We're about to start story time. I got off on a bit of a waffle there, which happens a lot. Make no mistake, if you insult the wrong person in high society today in the US, they can ruin your life. They're just not as likely to... Yeah. I mean, the instinct in human beings has not disappeared. We are all still very animalistic in the way that we do things. But, it's not as common today as it was, and there are very few people who can still get away with it. But yes, you are right that there is an uneven standard applied to folks with power, and that's been throughout all of history. We can't pretend like that's something that's only just recently developed. You know, it's been that way forever. But what I was getting at earlier was when Louis XVI was king, he put all of this effort into showing how strong the nobility was and how he had this long line of kings that went back to the Greeks and evoking, the symbols of Jupiter and showing how powerful the aristocracy was. But it stopped working because for so long the peasantry had to just kind of take their word for it, that they were doing what was right and just, without ever seeing the results of what was right and just. And because of that, they eventually became so enraged at the aristocracy throwing lavish parties, which a lot of people point to Marie Antoinette as like being one of the big perpetrators. And don't get me wrong, that woman could spend money. She spent crap tons of money, but so could Louis. Louis's chariot was, in today's money, would have been like a $2 billion golden chariot. The thing was ridiculously lavish and gaudy, and it's so much so that when they finally found it tucked away, they didn't even bother to keep it as like a artifact of the time. They melted it down and burned the wood panels. I don't know that it's necessarily true that she got the worst treatment because they needed a devil, because Louis was pretty poorly treated as well. But I do think that a lot of the aristocracy pointed to her love of lavish things, and it's something that all of the aristocracy were doing, but because she was so flamboyant and public about it, they pointed to her and be like, "Oh, look, she's the worst of us." So it's her. She is the cause of all of this spending, even though she was only a fraction of it. But because she was the most lavish and public with the way that she did these things, they pointed to her like, "Oh, it's her that's doing all of this lavish spending." And eventually, it brought about the revolution and the terror. But what a lot of people leave out is like, "Oh yeah, they beheaded Louis and Marie Antoinette and all of their family." That's true, they did. But then eventually, Georges Danton and Robespierre also ended up getting beheaded. And those were the guys that led the revolution against the nobility and the aristocracy. The terror ended up claiming the lives of almost every person who participated in the revolution, as well as the nobility, and nothing really changed. Nothing really changed. Nothing really became more even. Nothing was given back to the people. Nothing really changed. So, crime and law has always been a tug of war, and now more than ever, crime is losing compared to what organized crime used to be. Yeah, it's fair enough, nobody. Pear Pine Pin, hello and welcome in. It's good to see you. Was she the one who heard her people were starving and said, "Let they"? That's a myth. That didn't really actually happen. But yes, that is who Marie Antoinette is. Last public guillotine death was in 1970. I didn't know that. I know that the last public hanging was in like the 1950s or something. But that's interesting, Jacob. Pep in the ep in what? That's the most French thing, yeah. Still waiting on our Team Waffle shirt. You guys have to convince the lady. She's the one who designs the things. It's up to her what ends up being made and what ends up not being made. I think that society's overwhelming desire to hide death has led people to be far more arrogant with the way that they act. I think that a lot of leaders and criminals, which those two Venn diagrams usually make a circle, have forgotten that you're supposed to do the things you promise. You're supposed to keep your oaths. Anyways, let's get started reading. Dominic, hello, you're in just in time. We're about to get started. I completely forgot that we left off in the middle of a chapter last time. Let's see, where were we? Okay, so when we last left off, we were with Boric, who is the young prince that is believed dead. And they're in the middle of the desert, and he just got done fighting some desert raiders in order to rescue a guy who seems to be dressed as a Tibetan monk. I trust the lady, there's no reason not to. I would trust her with my life, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. All right, my friends, we're going to carry on forward. Again, when we last left off, Boric was in the desert with his new friend Gora, and they were escorting a caravan to Great Kesh. Put a vote up for shirt designs. I'll ask her again tonight. And if she says yes, then she'll say yes. Hippie, hello! Finally, I was able to make it in for a few minutes. I've missed you and everyone here. I'm very glad that you could make it. You have been missed. I hope that all has been well, and if it hasn't been well, I hope that it's on the up and up, and that you've clearly survived on the other side of it. So, good night. This week has been exhausting, so I'm going to sleep a little early. Good night, Cassie. Rest well. I'm glad that you were able to join us for a bit. Sorry you didn't get any story, but I hope that the waffles were at least entertaining for you. Benwell, just super busy. Busy is a blessing. I always say that, busy is a blessing. Tavern Keeper, based on how many friends of friends I'm finding here, mostly the intellectuals of Scottish Rite, Freemasonry, I think I brought you many followers. Well, I appreciate you bringing your friends to the tavern. It's always good to see comrades joined in drinks and stories. Okay, we're going to pick up right after Boric says, Boric shook his head and laughed, as much at himself for going through the trouble of saving this lunatic, as he was at the lunatic. I don't complain, the company is good. Well, I appreciate that. I hope you have a good night, rest well, and may you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. And I hope that you have a slightly more relaxing weekend than you had the week. I hope that you find some reprieve this week. Kids are asleep again. Hope I didn't miss much. We're literally just starting. I just got finished with waffles. Which, I just realized we've been waffling so long we might have to run ads again here soon. No, we got 20 minutes. Yeah, we got time. We got time. Alright. When night approached, the wagons were circled around the campfire, a tradition as old as caravans. Janos Saber had let Boric know in no uncertain terms that he thought of what he thought of any guard that would go looking for troubles that didn't concern him, and questioned Gouda for his lack of brains going after him. The boy he forgave, insofar as he was still a boy and boys are expected to do witless things. For some reason, he didn't seem to be in the least bit troubled by the Islanis having joined the caravan unasked. Boric was reasonably certain that the strange little man had somehow bemused the usually stern caravan master, but that suggested that the little man had some magic power or another. Unless he was a confident trickster of sufficient guile to run his confidence game while on the back of a moving wagon, 5 vehicles behind the one which his victim rode. Boric thought that even his Uncle Jimmy wouldn't claim being that good. At the thought of James, he was once again visited with the frustration of his situation. How to safely reach the palace of the Empress and get word to James that he was still alive. The facts learned at the governor of Durban's house showed that important men placed very high in the imperial house were involved in this plot on his life, and the closer he got to the palace, he was certain, the more difficult it would be to reach. Settling back near the fire, Boric considered that he would dwell on it as they travelled. There was still a great deal of road between where he was now and the gates of the palace. In the warmth of the evening, after a hot meal, he dozed until Gouda came and kicked him to alertness. "Your duty, madman." Boric rose and assumed his post with 2 other guards, each spaced a third of the way around the perimeter, with the muttering and oaths appropriate to such men in similar situations throughout history. "Chilosh!" called Gouda. Boric levered himself on his arms, peering between Gouda and the teamster who drove the wagon, and looked to where the old guard pointed. As the extra guard at this end of the caravan, he could get away with laying atop the bales of silk imported from the free cities, dozing in the afternoon sun. A town appeared upon the horizon as they crested a hill. It looked to be of good size. In the kingdom it might even count as a small city. But Boric had long since discovered that in relation to Kesh, the kingdom was sparsely populated. The prince returned to his doze. They would lay over for the night in Jeloge before continuing on to Keth. And most of the caravan's drivers and guards planned on a night of celebration and gambling. A day earlier, they rounded the northern edge of the Guardians, the mountains bordering the Auvergne Deep on the west. They now followed the river Sane toward the city of Kesh. Little towns and farming communities dotted the landscape. Boric could understand now why the caravan duty in the interior of Kesh was considered a low-risk profession. Things tended towards quiet this close to the capital of the empire. "I wonder what that's all about," mused Gouda. Boric looked up and saw a company of mounted men had set up an inspection point near the edge of town. Moving to the far right, so he could speak in Gouda's ear without the driver overhearing, Boric whispered, "They may be looking for me." Turning toward the younger guard, Gouda's eyes almost blazed in anger as he said, "Isn't that interesting? Do you have any other wonderful news I should know about before I'm hauled into the imperial court?" His angry tone cut through his whisper. "What did you do?" "They say I killed the wife of the governor of Durban," whispered Boric. Gouda's only reaction was to close his eyes a minute and press his forefinger and thumb to the bridge of his nose. "Why me? What have I done to displease the gods so?" Looking Boric directly in his eyes, he said, "Did you do it, madman?" "No, of course not." Gouda's eyes narrowed and searched Boric's for a long moment. Then he said, "I've got a shit end." With a big sigh, he said, "We could take a band of ragged bandits. If a bump came to push, if a push came to shove, those Imperials would have us trussed up like game birds before the table in less time than it would take to tell about it. Tell you what, if you're asked, you're my cousin from Odoscone." "Where is Odoscone?" asked Boric as the wagons drew near the horsemen. "A little town on the peaks of Tranquility. Nearest city is Campari. You have to go through 100 miles of green reaches to get there, so few do. Very little chance any of these boys having been within a year's march of that place." The first wagon slowed and then stopped, and by the time the others followed suit, Boric, along with Gura and the other guards, were off their respective wagons and coming to stand behind their master, which was expected in the case of these guardsmen were false. But from the manner of the officer of their officer approached Janos Saber, it was obvious that it was really an Imperial troop. This officer expected to be obeyed instantly. Each man in the company wore a splendid tunic of red silk, metal helm with a fur band around the base. This company being leopard skin. Each held a lance and had a sword at his side and a bow slung behind the saddle. Boric agreed with Guru's assessment. The men of the company had the look of seasoned veterans. Whispering in Guru's ear, Boric said, "Does Cash have any green troops?" Guru whispered back, "Many, man. The cemeteries are full of them." The officer spoke to Saber. "We are looking for a pair of runaway slaves from Durban. A young man, perhaps 20 years of age, and a boy of 11 or 12. Janos says, "Sir, my men are all caravan guards and drivers, either known to me or vouched for by those known to me. And the one boy we have is our cook's monkey." The officer nodded as if anything the caravan master had to say was of little consequence. Guru stroked his chin as if thinking, but hiding his face as he whispered to Boric, "Interesting. They're searching the wagons here. Why would a slave escaping from Durban run into the heart of the Empire instead of out of it?" If Janos connected Boric and Suli to the pair the guards looked for, he said nothing. A guard came to where Gura and Boric stood, and the guard looked Gura over quickly, but lingered to inspect Boric. "Where are you from?" he asked Boric. He asked as if one who felt the need to go through the motions, not knowing the truth would assume that he was looking for a runaway slave. For a slave to be standing before him calmly armed and armored was very improbable to the guard. But the duty required he asked. Boric said, "Here and there. I was born in Dononsky." Something in Boric's speech or the way he carried himself sparked interest in the guard. "You speak with an odd inflection." Boric didn't miss a beat when he answered. "You sound foreign to me, soldier. My people talk like I do." "You have green eyes." Suddenly the guard snatched the headgear from Boric's head, revealing his dyed black hair. "Hey!" Boric complained. At the treatment, Boric and Suli had used the last of the dye a few days before, and he hoped his red roots weren't long enough to give him away. "Captain!" shouted the soldier. "This one matches the description." Then Boric thought that while those who were trying to kill him knew he had red hair, the description of the runaway slave would be altered to fit the description given by the sailors who had pursued him from the harbour. "What a fool I have been," he thought. "I should have found another dye." The captain slowly came to inspect Boric and said, "Your name?" Boric said, "Everyone calls me the madman." With one eyebrow lifted, the captain said, "Odd. Why? Not many leave my village before I left, I was known for doing stupid things," finished Gouda. "He's my cousin." "You have green eyes," said the captain. "So does his mother," answered Gouda. The captain turned to face Gouda. "Do you always answer for him?" "As often as I can, sir. Like I said, he does stupid things. The people of the Odoskani don't call him madman out of affection." He pantomimed a man with little whips, crossing his eyes and sticking his tongue out at the side of his mouth. Another guard approached, pulling Suli along by the arm. "What have we here?" said the captain. "That is the cook's monkey," answered Janos. "What is your name, boy?" asked the captain. Gouda said, "Suli, of Odonskani." The captain turned. "Quiet!" Boric said, "He's my brother." The captain struck out the back of his gloved hand, smashing into Boric's face. Tears came to Boric's eyes, but he held himself in check, despite the sudden urge to skewer the captain of the Imperial Keshin Guards. The captain grabbed Suli by the chin and inspected him. "You have dark eyes," Suli stammered. My mother had dark eyes." The captain looked hard at Gouda. "I thought you said his mother had green eyes." Without missing a beat, Gouda retorted, "No, his mother had green eyes." He pointing at Boric. Pointing at Suli, he said, "His mother had dark eyes. Different mothers, same father." Another guard approached and said, "No one else matches the description, sir." The soldier holding Suli demanded, "Who is your father?" Suli glanced at Boric, but the soldier said, "Answer me!" "Suli, of Odonsky." The boy squeaked. "It was named for him." The captain struck the soldier. "Idiot!" He pointed at Boric. The other one could hear the name. Boric said, "Captain, take the boy away and ask him the name of our other brother." The captain motioned for it to be done while Boric whispered to Gouda, "He's going to hold us." "Then why this nonsense?" asked Gouda in hushed tones. "Because the minute he's certain we're the right pair, we're dead. Before another minute follows." "Kill on sight," hissed Gouda. Boric nodded yes. While the captain came to stand before them. "Now, who is the mythical brother of you two liars?" "We have a brother, Raska, who's a drunkard," answered Boric, silently praying the boy remembered the impromptu dialogue he had engaged in just before they encountered Salea in Durban. A moment later, the soldier returned and said, "Their boy says they have an elder brother named Rasta, who is a drunkard." Boric could have kissed the boy, but held his smile in check. The captain said, "There is something about you two I don't like." He glanced over to where Janos Seba waited. You and the rest of your men can go, but I'm taking these two into custody. Then he looked at Gouda and said, bring this one along too. Gouda said, wonderful. As the guards disarmed him and bound his wrists, Boric and Suli were likewise bound. After all weapons were taken from them, and soon the three captors were being led along on lead ropes, trotting after horses as best they could. The town of Gilloge had a constable's office, which in turn had a poor excuse for a cell, used mostly to hold troublesome farmers and herdsmen when arrested for brawling. The tavern keeper could make it as an actor, methinks. Oh, I'm a terrible actor. YT Goodman, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate that. Welcome to the tavern. So very glad that you could join us. And for anybody else who's joined that I haven't seen, Hannah, hello, it's good to see you. How are we all doing tonight? We're doing spectacular. It's so very good to see you. Mama to Life, thank you for the rose. Welcome in. Fortunately, it was just a few minutes. I'll come back Saturday for longer. All right, hippie, have a wonderful night. Kayla, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Well, yes, welcome to all of the new folk. We're so very glad you could join us. I forgot that Nilu bought a round for the birthday for Danny. Somebody else bought a round, but I can't see who and for what. Oh, Bobby bought a round just because. I'll drink to that. Okay. We have just entered the town of Gilloge. I'm gonna pause here for a second so we can run our ads over on Twitch. And once those are done, we will crop right back up here. So we're gonna run the ads real quick, friends. If you're over on Twitch, it's gonna be 3 minutes of ads. It gives us an hour without them. Unfortunately, it makes us do this. I wish we didn't have to. But if I don't do it, then as soon as you come in, you'll get stuck in an ad. If you have Turbo or if you have a subscription, you won't be subjected to ads. But we'll be right back. 3 minutes, friends, and then we will get back. And in the meantime, we'll waffle a bit, my friends. Let's see. All right. Wonderful. Primus Vortex Lawkeeper, thank you for the shares. To everybody who likes and shares the story times while my head is down, I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone who comes in and converses civilly with the other tavern folk. Yes, my darling. Came to see me. You do have more coffee? You just need to make your wants known so they can be followed to the best of your intentions. Oh, and it's a good thing I looked up too, because they're trying to kick us off of TikTok as well. TikTok's standard for, well, like what they will kick you off for and what they won't is wild. It's such a strange such a strange threshold that I'm completely uncertain of what exactly the threshold is supposed to be, but is what it is. I appreciate being able to reach folks all over the world, so you just kind of have to take it as you can get it, I suppose. Pepine Pin said, I would disagree that nothing really changed, at least in the long term. The revolution was incredibly powerful precedent. Pushing for equal rights, future movements would not have been so fervent without it. I think to some degree, yes. But in reality, what happened was it forced. And I'm trying to be diplomatic with the way I word this. It forced the aristocracy and the nobility to be more clever with the way that they do what they do. It forced them to be more underhanded and sneaky rather than be out and blatant with the way that they did things. Michael, thank you for the heart me over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated, my friend. Thank you kindly. The Summer Reading Club for kids kicks off Saturday. I don't know if it's province or countrywide, but we love participating every year and make so many kids read more. I would always advocate for kids to read more. You can never read too much, you can never read enough. And especially if you're going to be an active reader and implement the things that you learn, I'm all about that. It's still I'm a little bit dizzy and still blurry-eyed, but I'm doing all right, and I appreciate you asking. My eyes feel very heavy and like behind them there's a lot of pressure, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. If it was overwhelming, I wouldn't be sitting here doing story time. They also get to do new activities or encourage learning and exploration. They make new friends and so much more. That's wonderful. I love stuff like that. I love things like that. But yeah, I don't know if Pin is still in here, but revolutions force aristocracies to be more clever in the way they do things. And there can be some good on the back end. The issue is that most revolutions lack foresight. Because the reality is most of the people who start the revolutions and fight in them don't live beyond them. And most of the current old guard that are the target of these revolutions, most of them also don't survive. But the issue is that once that whole thing takes place, the same types of people end up reclaiming power again. And it's only in very rare instances where you see somebody take power who is not obsessed with keeping hold of power. Any ruling body that desires to increase its power and take more power is never going to have the will of the people in mind, we'll say. And we see this, there have been very few instances ever where you have a ruler or ruling body that limits its own power. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. It is on my list still, Petra. Oh, and a chance to win prizes always helps. Speaking of, we have something very fun and interesting coming up in the very near future for tavern stuff. So if you are someone who enjoys questing, there will be something made almost exclusively for you coming up with the tavern very, very soon. Alright, my friends, let's go ahead and continue. Seems like the ads are done. The town of Zeloge had a constable's office, which in turn had a poor excuse for a cell. Used mostly to hold troublesome farmers and herdsmen who'd been arrested for brawling. Now it was the imperial captain and his company who used it, to the acute discomfort of the local constable, a retired soldier with a grey in his beard and a belly that hung over his belt. He was just the sort to keep rowdy farmer boys in line, but unlikely to be up to any serious fighting. He had quickly agreed to the captain's demand that he absent himself from the premises. I play Oblivion. I love questing. You said a whole lot in a sentence there about your love for questing, Clifford. Boric had overheard him instructing the sergeant to send a post-dispatch rider quickly as possible to the city of Kesh, a request asking what to do with the 3 prisoners. Boric only made out part of the conversation, but it was obvious the orders came from one high up in the army. Certain precautions were being taken to prevent any undue attention being turned on this massive search. One thing about Kesh, Boric thought, it was a nation of so many people doing so many things that this sort of operation could continue for a long while with perhaps only one citizen in 100 even hearing about it. The day had gone now, and the night was dragging out. An hour earlier, Sully had fallen asleep. Any hope for an evening meal vanished with the constable. Imperial guards seemed to have little concern over something as trivial as a prisoner's hunger. Wait, what? Yes. Hello, came a cheery voice from the window. Sully awoke with a jump. They all looked up and saw a grinning face in the small window above the cell. Nako, Boric whispered. Motioning Gura to give him a leg up, Boric pulled himself up by the bars of the window. Standing upon Gura's shoulders, what are you doing here? I thought you might want another orange, said the grinning little man. Jail food is never very good. Boric could only nod dumbly as the little man handed an orange through the bars. Boric tossed it to Sully, who hungrily took a bite and spit out the peel. We'll have to take your word for that, said Prince. They haven't bothered to feed us. Then suddenly Boric said, How did you get up there? The window's a good 8 feet in the wall. The window was a good 8 feet up the wall, and the little man didn't seem to be hanging by the bars. Never mind that. Do you want to get out? Guru, who was beginning to wobble a bit under Boric's weight, said, There's one old-time stupid question asked by a mortal man in the last 1,000 years. Of course we want out. Grinning widely, the Islani said, Stand over in that corner and cover your eyes. Boric jumped down from Guru's shoulders, moving to the corner, and they covered their eyes. There was a silent moment when nothing happened, and then suddenly a shock hit Boric, as if a large hand had slammed against the wall and a loud boom deafened him. He winced at it, then opened his eyes. The wall was now breached. The constable's jaw was full of fine dust and the reek of sulphur. Several guards stood holding on to whatever gave them support, while others lay upon the floor, obviously blinded by whatever had happened to the wall. Nakor stood next to 4 horses with saddles bearing Imperial Army's crest. They won't need these, I'm certain, he said, handing over the reins to Boric. Sully stood fearful, saying, Master, I don't know how to ride. Guru picked up the boy and lifted him into the saddle of the nearest animal. Then you better learn quick. If you start to fall, just grab the horse's mane, and don't. Boric was in the saddle and said, They'll be after us in a moment, let's... No, said Nakor. I cut all their saddle girdles and bridles. Seemingly from nowhere, he produced a wicked-looking knife, as if to illustrate the point. But it still might be wise to move along, lest those alerted by the sound come investigate. To that, no one had any argument, and they rode out. Sully barely able to hold on for his life. A little way down the road, Boric dismounted and fixed Sully's stirrup leathers for him. Sully's horse, sensing an inexperienced rider, was full of nasty tricks, so Boric could only hope the boy would survive any falls that was certain to come as they hurried away. As they left the now awake town of Gilos, Boric said to Nakor, "What was that?" "Oh, a little magic trick I learned long way away," said the grinning man. Guru made a sign of protection and said, "Are you a magician?" Nakor laughed. "Of course. Don't you know that all Islanis are capable of magic feats?" Boric said, "Is that how you were able to get to the window? You floated using magic?" Nakor's laughter increased. "Oh, madman, I stood on the back of the horse." Feeling relief and exhilaration at his escape, Boric put heels to his horse, and the animal broke into a canter. A moment later, the others could be heard behind him until a yell and unpleasant thud told them that Sully had been tossed. Turning around to see if the boy was seriously hurt, Boric said, "This might be the slowest escape in history." And so ends chapter 12 of Prince of the Blood. Let's see. How long is the next chapter? The next chapter is... Oh, yeah, we can get through another chapter, I think. I think that we should be able to get through another chapter. Oh, Arthur Christie, hello, hello! I feel like he might be an incarnation of the Monkey King. I think that that's fair. I think that that's fair. Oh, I managed to look up just in time for Arthur Christie and the Badgers to come in. Let's go ahead and give a tour of the Great Horn. If you're trying to sleep, I apologize. But we've had raiders over on the Twitch portal, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome in, Christy. I appreciate you. Grab a seat and pull up a chair. I hope that you had a wonderful evening with the Badgers. I hope that you had a productive evening. I thank you for bringing your friends into the tavern to end off your night. And if you have to run off, I certainly understand. But we appreciate you for coming in. All right, my friends. Just a second. Yes, yeah, we're fine. I had a couple of things pop up on the screen I needed to take care of. That was my fault. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll carry on to chapter 13. If you're all still in the mood for more story time, I presume you are. I think we could probably make it through this next chapter. This next chapter is almost 20 pages. No, what the kid he wants is he wants to get into the snake cage. He very much wants to either play with or eat the snake. And at their size, I'm not sure who would win. Because Milo is huge, he's massive, but the snake is pretty big too. So it would be a heck of a fight. I'd have to put it on pay-per-view for you all. My favorite number 13. Tiny sip for you all. Actually, for Darth Nexus, that is actually a little tiny butterbeer mug. Alright. Chapter 13 of Prince of the Blood. Jubilee. Erlon stood silently. So we're back with Erlon in the palace. Erlon is the prince that we know is alive, that everybody knows is alive. Whereas Boric is the prince that everyone thinks is dead. I'm listening, I'm just a bit of a lurker overall. This is my bedtime, but I can't help listening to a good story. It's alright, Hannah. I've said from the beginning of these that if you guys want to use them to fall asleep, that's more than acceptable. And I will apologize for the tootings of raid horns and Anytime I get impassioned during Milo, no. Hey! Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Get down. He's gonna knock a whole bunch of shit over. Hang on. Milo, get down. Don't make me. I'm gonna whoop your butt. Do not go up there. Get down. He's just pushing his luck. How is Squeeze? I think he's fine. Like, he's so old we never see him. He pokes his head out when he's hungry. That's it. So he gets fed like once a month. And then he take a bath once a month. And that's it. He never comes out otherwise. He's a very happy fat snake. He's trying to choose violence. Because, like, the lady has a little shelf here with, like, her nutcrackers and some glass vases and a picture frame and some other, like, glass things. And they're not supposed to be up on counters. They know they're not supposed to be on counters, but somebody in the house, I'm not going to point fingers, somebody in the house lets them drink out of the faucet. So when I'm not in the room, they try to get up on counters, especially the sink. And then when they do that, they jump up there and then knock stuff over. Can Milo come on counter? Yeah, I can go grab him before we start the chapter. I'll go grab him. Make him work a little bit. Hang on. Be right back. He might run away from me though, because I was reprimanding him. You better behave. But you work. I know. Such a whiny boy. He didn't want to work, so he tried to escape. Stop it. Stop it. There he is. So this is Milo, and you can see he is massive. He's huge. He's an absolute unit. Look how big those paws are. How big his paws are. Oh my goodness, stop. Stop. You're being such a whiner. No, it is the mother of the one who plays Where Winds Meet. But yes, this is Milo. He is the lady's most recent rescue. He is a full-blooded Bengal. And he is just not very smart. Like the rest of them. Boo also is not very smart. And Dakota is also not very smart. Chocolate, and thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern. Hey, will you, hey, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. You don't have to do that much work around here. You sleep, eat, and poop. Like 90% of the day. You can do a little bit of work, alright? Relax. Collective shared version, collective shared brain cell is missing again. Yeah. I think there's like 3 or 4 brain cells between them and they're all fighting for 8th place. Don't get that out of my face. Get that, what you're doing. Get that out of my face. You're such a whiner. You're such a baby. Crazy thing is that when given the opportunity, like he is the laziest snuggler ever, he'll just plop down and start snuggling with whoever's holding still long enough. How heavy is Milo? He's probably about 9 pounds, I would say. He's very dense. He's not super fat, but he's very dense. Alright, you're free to go. You're free to go. Get out of here. Get out of here. But Jacqueline, thank you for marking us on the map over on the TikTok portal. You should be able to find your way back to us the next time that you seek a story. I would need to weigh him. Because he is very dense, he's heavy. Like, if he jumps on you, it feels like a dog jumping on you. He's very heavy. I've said this before, but who needs brains when you're that pretty? That's true. That's true. That's why I don't have to be very smart. It's because I'm so stunning. Don't have to rely on personality or anything like that. I was blessed with the gorgeous moneymaker. Would you stop whining? I just had you over here. See, because what he wants, what he's whining about, is he wants me to come over and tap on his wheel, and then he wants to lay on the wheel while I scratch him. He's just spoiled animals. Spoiled animals, that's what they are. If it weren't for the lady, every one of them would have been eaten by a hawk, including the dog, who was like 90 pounds. Would have been carried off by a hawk. Tilly is 13, Obsidian is 10. Yeah, actually, I have a scale. I'll just weigh him real quick. It's not an animal scale. it's a parcel scale, but I'll grab the parcel scale and put him on it. See how much he weighs. You're so abused. I just need you to sit right here for a second. You are a big boy. You are a big boy. Oh my lord. Alright, so according to our parcel scale, he is 12.5 pounds. He's a big boy. Destiny, good night, love. I appreciate you. Off to bed. Give all the boys kisses and hugs from all of us. I got Salem is 17 pounds. He's a Siberian. Well, and that's a crazy. Milo's not. He's not fully grown yet. He's not gonna grow much more. He's almost a year old. But 12.5 pounds. He's a big boy. Because he's also like very thin. Bearded Viking, hello, thank you for the follow. Welcome into the tavern. You've marked us on the map. Should be able to find your way back the next time you seek a story. Susan, hello, thank you for the heart me. Tips to the tavern, keep it always appreciated. Sleepless Songbird. Now, is that the same Songbird as from TikTok or different Songbird? Would you consider reading the Black Jewels trilogy by Anne Bishop or Kerry Maniscalco's Kingdom of the Wicked? If you ever want to read something a bit more gothic on the romance side of things, I would consider reading anything. Though if it's romance, it's probably a better suited for the ladies' time slot, because she'll typically read more romance stuff than I will. But any book can make it into story time. Any book can make it into story time. All right. And now that we have that done, we're going to get back into story time. Yay, Siberian babies. My 3 are Siberian mixes. Siberians are pretty cats, that's for sure. All right. Well, Maddie, you've got enough inside track. You might be able to guilt trip your way into it. You just be like, guys, if you really love me and my book, you'll vote for it. Not that I support that. I'm not on TikTok, but I have commented on a few other videos. Good to see you again. Always happy to hear about the kitty. Well, Sleepless Songbird. I only said that because I have a regular over on TikTok whose name is Songbird, so that's why I was wondering if you were the same. Because I do recognize your name, but I hadn't put it together. Absolutely, brother. Hello from Scotland. Well, welcome in. I am currently in the west coast of the United States. Are you giving me a tactic? Oh, look, I'm just saying. Spearsy, who is the one who utilized, who got us onto Feist, was he came in and was like, hey, this is my favorite book of all time. It's really important to me. Please give it a try. And then Bear came in and supported, and Herring came in and supported, and then we read through 5 books of Feist. Whereabouts in Scotland are you from, Beard Viking? I have family out in the Faroes and in Isle of Skye. East Coast, alright. He's like a tiny version of their Siberian dad, floppy snuggler like a rag doll the size of middle 2 feet. It's a big cat. Big cat. What I read shouldn't be on Storytime, I remember. Probably not. Yeah, anything that's got anything too explicit on it can't make it to Storytime. Erin was saying she'd petition for it on her stream. Alright, let's go. We're on chapter 13. Jubilee. Erlon stood silent. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't accept the scope of what he saw. The sight of the first day ceremony of the Empress's 75th Jubilee. For centuries, Kesh's finest engineers had refurbished, expanded, and added to it, until it stood out as the single most impressive feat of construction Erlond had ever witnessed. It was a gigantic amphitheater carved into the side of the plateau, upon which the upper city, the Imperial Palace, rested. Built by the skill of artisans, the sweat of builders, and the blood of slaves, vast enough to comfortably seat 50,000 people, more than the populations of Rillanon and Krondor combined. Erlon motioned his companions to walk with him, for it was still almost an hour before his own part in the formal drama of court was to commence. Kafi Abdu Harez, ever-present guide, was at his elbow to answer questions. Finally, Erlon said, Coffee, how long did it take to build this? Centuries, Highness, answered the desert man. He pointed to a place in the distance near the base of the gigantic wedge that had been cut from the plateau. There, near the city edge of the lower city, in the ages past, the Emperor of Kesh, Sujanrani Kanafi, called the Benevolent, decided that the prohibition against those who were not true blood, remaining upon the plateau at night, prevented his citizens from observing some necessary imperial functions. Most notably, those ceremonies that affirm Sujanrani's benevolence, as well as public executions of traitors. He felt the object lesson was lost on many who would not benefit from observing it firsthand. So he decreed that all that was of this plateau, including the lowest part of it, was, in effect, part of the upper city. He then had a small amphitheater created down there, about a dozen feet higher than it is today. With a small sweep of his hand, Coffee illustrated his next remark. A wedge of rock was then carved out so that an upper court could be held in view of those not permitted to ascend to the upper city. And it's been enlarged several times since then, said Locklear. Yes, said Coffee. The entrance alone has been enlarged on 5 occasions. The Imperial box has been repositioned 3 times. He pointed to a large area overhung by a giant canopy of fine silk at the middle point of the large stone crescent upon which Erlon and his party walked. Coffee halted the prince with a gentle touch on the arm and pointed to the Empress's private viewing area. There, she who is Kesh, blessings ever be upon her, will oversee the festival. Her throne of gold sits upon this small dais, and around which her family and servants, and those of royal blood, will rest in comfort. Only those of highest nobility within the empire are permitted in that area. To enter without imperial writ is to die, for Her Majesty's mother guards will stand at every entrance. Pointing out a row of boxes, each slightly lower than the one preceding, as they moved away from the imperial box, he said, "Those closest to Her Majesty are the highest spawn in the empire, those who make up the gallery of lords and masters." He indicated the entire level they walked. Erlon said, 6,000 people could stand upon this level alone, Coffee. The desert man nodded. Perhaps more. This level reaches down and embraces the floor below, like arms surrounding a body. At the distant end, we will be a full 100 feet below the Empress's throne. Come, let me show you more. The desert man, wearing robes of the darkest blue and starkest white for the formal ceremonies, led them to a railing looking down upon another level. As they walked, nobles who would precede Erlon's party in being presented to the Empress hurried past, a very few taking a moment to offer the Prince of the Kingdom of the Isles a slight bow. Erlon noted the half-dozen tunnels that opened onto the broad walkway behind the boxes. All of these can't originate in the palace alone, can they? Coffee nodded. Ah, but they do, Erlon said. I would think the safety of the Empress would supersede the convenience of those nobles needing to come down here once or twice a year. Those tunnels are an invitation to any invader seeking to enter the palace. Coffee shrugged. It is academic, my young friend. For you must understand that for an invader to threaten the tunnels, they must hold to the lower city. And should any invader hold the lower city, the empire is already lost. For if they hold the lower city, the might of Kesh is already dust. This is the heart of the empire, and the 100,000 Keshian soldiers would lie dead before an invader came within sight of the city. Do you see? Erlon considered this, then nodded. I guess you're right. Being a nation born upon an island, in a sea sailed by a dozen other nations, we look at things differently. I understand, said Coffee. He pointed to the area between the down-sweeping boxes and the floor of the amphitheater. The stone had been cut in descending concentric circles, so that a grandstand had been chiseled from the rock of the plateau. A dozen stairways from the upper floor upward to the level just below the boxes were already filled to capacity with colorfully dressed citizens. There is where the lesser nobles, masters of guilds, and influential merchants of the city will sit, upon cushions or bare stone all around. The center is kept clear for those being presented to the Empress. Coffee said, You and your party will enter here, Highness, after the nobles of Kesh, and before the commoners, as ambassadors of all nations will. The Empress has favored you by placing your delegation before all the others, an admission that the Kingdom of the Isles stands second only to the Empire of Great Kesh in the majesty upon Midkemia. Erlon cast James a wry look at the offhand compliment, but only said, We thank Her Majesty for the courtesy. If Coffee shared the sarcasm, he kept that fact well hidden. Moving on as if nothing impolitical had been said, he continued. The common people of Kesh are permitted to view the festivities from across the entrance, atop roofs, and many other vantage points. Erlon looked out over the lower city. There, thousands of commoners were held back by a line of soldiers. Beyond the street that crossed before the amphitheater, people crowded upon the rooftops of buildings and into every window, providing a vantage point. Erlon found the sheer number of people in one place breathtaking. Gamina, who had been silently walking beside her husband, said, "I doubt they can see much." Coffee shook his head. "Perhaps, but then, before the rule of Sujendrani Kanafi, they saw nothing of the court ceremony." "My Lord Abdu Hares," said Locklear, "before we continue, could you and I discuss the speech my prince has prepared for this day, so that we might not inadvertently give offence?" Coffee saw the transparent request for his absence, but given there was no reason not to agree, he let Locklear lead him away. Leaving James, Gamina, and Erlon relatively alone, several Keshian servants hovered nearby, taking care of the many details of preparation. A few of them were agents of the imperial court, no doubt, thought Erlon as he regarded James. "What?" James turned and leaned upon the marble railing of the gallery, as if looking out over the vast amphitheatre. "Gamina," he said softly. Gamina closed her eyes, and then her voice came into Erlon's head. "We are being watched." Erlon had to force himself not to look around. "We expect that," he replied. "No, by magic arts." Erlon forced himself not to swear. "Can they hear us speak in this way?" "I don't know," she replied. "My father could, but there are few with his power. I don't think so." James' voice said, "Spectacular, isn't it?" While his mental message was, "I'm going to assume they can't, or you'd sense it. And I don't think we're going to be under any less scrutiny anytime soon. So we might as well hope that we're right." "Yes," agreed Gamina. "I wasn't aware of the magic until I went looking for it. It's very subtle and good. I think whoever is using it can hear what we say, perhaps even see how we act. But if they could hear our thoughts, I would know." Gamina closed her eyes for a moment, as if dizzy from the heat. James steadied her for a moment. "I don't think it's a mind, or I would have sensed a purpose behind it." "What do you mean?" asked Erlon. "I think we are under the focus of a device, perhaps a crystal or mirror. My father has used several of these in his studies over the years. If that is so, then we can be seen for certain, and either our lip movement is being read by one so trained, or we are being heard aloud. Our thoughts are safe, I'm certain." "Good," said James. "I've finally gotten word from our agent down here. It was a demon's own time getting word to me." "I wonder how long we'll be expected to stand during the ceremony," said Gamina absently. "Hours, no doubt," commented James. To Erlon he said, "We've walked into a stew and it's rapidly coming to a boil. There's a plot to overthrow the Empress's rule. That's our agent's best guess." Feigning a yawn of boredom, the princess said, "I hope I can be alert throughout." Mentally, he said, "What does that have to do with plunging Kesh and the kingdom into war?" "If we know that, we would have a better idea of who's trying to start this revolt. I have a bad feeling about this, Erlon." "Why?" "Besides the obvious danger, there are going to be a lot of soldiers in the city this afternoon. Each subject ruler will be bringing companies of honor guards. There will be thousands of soldiers not under the Empress's direct command within the walls of Kesh for the next 2 months." "Charming," was Erlon's response. "Well, perhaps we should rest before the ordeal begins." James said, "Yeah, that would be best, I think." Gamina spoke in both men's minds. "What should we do, James?" "Wait, that's all we can do," was his reply, "and remain alert." "Coffee returns," observed Gamina. The desert man said, "Highness, Your remarks would be doubly appreciated for their sincerity and brevity. After the ceremonies of this day, I fear you shall see that economy of speech is not an imperial trait. Erlon was about to answer when Coffee said, "Look, it begins." A tall man, old but still muscular, entered the imperial box and came to the very edge. He was dressed as all true blood, in a kilt and sandals, but he also wore a solid gold torque, which Erlond estimated had to weigh as much as a suit of leather armor. He carried what looked to be a wooden staff covered in gold leaf, with an odd-looking gold design at the top, a falcon perched upon a golden disc. Coffee whispered, though it seemed impossible to Erlon anyone would overhear them. "The Falcon of Kesh, the royal insignia. It is only seen publicly at the high festivals. The falcon gripping the sun's orb is holy to the true blood." The old man lifted the staff and brought it down upon the stones, and Erlon was astonished at how loud the sound was. And then he spoke. "O great Kesh, great nations, hearken to me." The acoustics were perfect in the amphitheater. Even those on the boulevard, sitting atop the buildings, could hear the man perfectly as the sound of the crowd died away to a hush. "She has come! She has come! She who is great Kesh has come, and she graces our lives by her presence." At this, a procession of hundreds of true blood began slowly entering the imperial box. "She walks, and the stars yield to her splendor, for she is the heart of glory. She speaks, and the birds cease their singing, for her words are knowledge. She considers, and the scholars reap, for her wisdom is fervent. She judges, and the guilty despair, for her gazes see into the hearts of men." The enumerations of the Empress's wondrous attributes continued in similar vein as more of the true bloods of all ages and ranks entered the imperial box. Erlond had thought he had met a great many of those who were important in the empire, but just the imperial party alone numbered dozens of strangers, and the only one he had spoken to on more than one occasion was Lord de Rome, the stout and inadvertently comic noble who had greeted them at the boundary of the upper city as the aide-de-camp of Prince Awari. Erlon was surprised to discover Nerome was related to the royal family. Then, upon reflection, it seemed a reasonable explanation for why a man so obviously maldetroit would have a high post in the government. The men and women of the royal blood continued to enter the box and take their places as the master of ceremonies continued to intone the Empress's virtues. Impressive, thought Erlon, trying to establish contact with Kamina. James's wife lightly touched him on the arm as she answered, "Yes, James thinks so as well." "Coffee," said Erlon. "Your Highness, would it be permitted for us to remain here for a while?" "As long as you make a timely entrance. There is no reason why not, Highness." "Good," said Erlon, smiling for the desert man's benefit. "Would you answer a few questions?" "If I am able," he answered. "And if you could chime in with what you know, James," he added. Kamina relayed the message, for James nodded slightly. "How is it that there are so many in the Imperial box, yet I have not seen any of the great lords or masters yet?" Coffee said, "Only those related to the Empress by blood may join her in the Imperial box. Servants and guards notwithstanding, of course." "Of course," replied Erlon. "Which means that there is at least 100 people with a recognized legitimate claim to the throne," added James. "Providing enough people die in proper order," Erlon added dryly. "There is that," added James. When the relatives had entered, the first discordant note intruded. Suddenly, black-clad warriors appeared. Each wore turbans of black, with a face covered that left only the eyes exposed. Long, flowing robes were designed for easy, quick movement. and each had a black scabbard scimitar at his belt. Erlond had heard tell of these. Ismailis, the legendary shadow warriors of Kesh. Tales had grown in the telling until they were regarded as almost supernatural. Only those of the most highly placed in the Empire could afford such bodyguards. They were counted superior warriors as well as spies and superior ability, and assassins if need be, it was whispered. James attempted to sound casual when he said, "My Lord Coffee, would it be unusual for the Empress to be surrounded by her own Imperial Guards?" The desert man's eyes narrowed slightly, but without any change in inflection he said, "It is considered more prudent to use the Ismailis. They are without peer." Which means, thought James to Erlon through Gamina, the Empress can no longer trust even her own Imperial Guards. When the Ismailis were in place, a dozen husky slaves, bodies oiled, entered carrying a litter, upon which sat the Empress. Throughout the entrance of the Imperial party, the old man with the golden staff had been intoning a long ritual introduction, citing great feats accomplished under Lakeisha, the Empress. Suddenly, Erlon caught a shift in tension and began listening to the introduction. "Crushed the rebellion of Lesser Kesh," intoned the old man, and Erlon remembered from his study of Keshian's history that about the time of his birth, all the nations of the south, with two mountain ranges that transverse the continent, the girdle of Kesh, had been brought to heel after 20 years of successful revolt. The self-proclaimed Keshian Confederacy had been made to pay dearly for their rebellion. Thousands had been put to death, and from the few reports that had made their way to the kingdom, the devastation had been unequaled by anything in the kingdom history. Entire cities were put to the torch, and their population sold into slavery. Entire peoples, races, language, and cultures had ceased to exist, except among the slaves. And from the angry muttering that could be heard from the crowd, not just the commoners in the streets, but from many of the lesser nobles in the amphitheater below, bad blood still existed between those subject people and their ruler. Gamina went pale and Coffee noticed. "Is my lady feeling ill?" Gamina gripped James's arm and stood on wobbly legs a moment. She shook her head and said, "The heat, my lord. If I could please have some water." Coffee merely motioned, and instantly a servant was at their side. Coffee instructed him, and a moment later the servant ordered a cool cup of water to Gamina. She sipped it, while speaking silently to James, Locklear, and Erlond. "I was caught unprepared for that sudden flow of anger and hatred. Many of those here would happily murder the Empress, and many of the angry minds are in the Imperial box." James made comforting sounds as he patted his wife on the arm, and Locklear said, "If you think it would be too much for you to stand here for the rest of the day, Gamina." "No, Lockie, I'm fine. Just need to drink a bit more water, I think." Coffee said, "That is wise." Erlon returned his attention to the next group to enter. The prince and both princesses of Kesh had entered after their mother, and now the most powerful lords and masters of the empire were being announced. Lord Jaka, commander of the Imperial Charioteers, entered. "How important are the Charioteers, Coffee?" asked Erlond. "I am not certain I understand, Highness. I mean, is their position only tradition, or do they really stand as the heart of the army? On those occasions in the past where our two nations have had differences, we've always faced your dreaded dog soldiers." Coffee shrugged. "The charioteers were the vanguard of those who crushed the Confederacy, Highness. But your borders lie far from the north, and the charioteers would be dispatched that far from the capital only in greatest need." Jocker, the man who can make or break any attempt to overthrow the Empress, offered James. Erlon nodded, as if considering Coffee's words. To Gamina, Locklear, and James, he thought. He seems pretty solid from outward appearances. He's an important man. He's an important man, Erlon, answered James. No coup d'etat would succeed without him either participating or neutralised. Got one little fly buzzing around right here. Falling Crow, belated howdy. I probably won't be seeing any more live streams from it due to needing to fix bedtimes for basics and then being in basics. But I just wanted to say hello, Crow. It's always wonderful to see you. I'm glad you dropped in. Heidi said hello, listening from Pennsylvania in the United States of America. Love that I could finally catch a live reading. We're very glad to have you. Grab your seat and settle in. We have a few more pages to go before we're done tonight. Yeah, we got about half a chapter left. That's alright, Bear. Do what you need to do. Bobby, have a good night. Rest well. And of course, I hope you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. And Crow, of course, do what you have to do. Make sure you're resting and taking the time you need. Dakota, absolutely, brother. Hello from Scotland. Welcome in, Dakota. Very, very good to see you. I think I caught everybody. So it seems. If you are new and you've never been into Storytime before, if I miss something that you've said, don't hesitate to post it again when I'm looking up. You're not going to get in trouble for it. I don't get upset about spamming. I appreciate anybody who is willing to take the time. Frost, thank you for the drink, my friend. I appreciate you. I hope that you're making sure to mind yourself as well. And I'm also straightening up. Oh, crackly poppily back. Let's see who. Okay, got all of them. All right. Coffee touched Erlon upon the arm. Speaking of the dog soldiers, here is their master, Sula Jaffi Buttar, Prince Regent of the armies, and hereditary ruler of Kistan, Ishan, and Paji, and other states where the armies are recruited. The man who entered was fairly nondescript, save that he looked like a black-skinned version of a true blood. His dress was identical, wide-keeled sandals and a shaved head, but his skin shone like ebony in the sun. Most of his followers were equally dark, though few could pass as true blood to Erlon's inexperienced eye. Erlon looked at James, who answered. He's an unknown player, Erlon. He seems openly loyal. His peoples were the first to be conquered by their neighbours, so they are among the oldest lines in the nation, second only to the true blood. Aber Bukar, Lord of the armies, is their true commander. But this man has a lot of influence in the army. Kafi said, perhaps we should begin to move downward, Prince Erlon. That way we shall not risk any breach of courtesy. Erlon said, please, lead on. A group of guards... Milo, get down! Hey, get down! Boy, hang on. I'm gonna go... Speaking of murderizing, I'm gonna go murderize a cat. You get down from there. Get down. Little brat. Swear to God. Spoiled animal. Spoiled animal. He's up there trying to get himself murdered. Evelyn Michaela Carter. Hello from Romania. Haven't had many active folk from Romania. We have a couple of Macedonian friends, but that's not the same area even remotely, but... Well, welcome in from Romania. How is the weather there presently? This is my first Storytime live and sending love to everyone from Alaska. Spectacular. Well, I'm glad to have you. I'm glad that you were able to make it in, Songbird. Paige, thank you for the summer songs. I appreciate that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Where were we? A group of guards fell in around Erlon and his companions, and the prince was momentarily startled. He did not notice them approaching in the crowd. They made no cry, nor did they need to. People on the ramp behind the boxes seemed to sense their approach instinctively and give way. James observed. At this social strata, people seemed to be on alert at a possible approach of someone of greater rank. Coffee gave a shrug with a gesture of his hand down and outward and said, Malish, which Erlon knew was Beni, Coffee's native language for I'm sorry, but actually meant disaster happens. It is what the Beni speaking people call Kismet or fate, the will of the gods. The name Lord Ravi intruded upon Erlon's awareness, and he glanced back to see another colourful group of men entering. Each man in the front had a shaved head, save for the skull pock down the centre, combed high and kept erect with pomade or wax. A fall of horsehair was dyed to match the wearer's natural colour and tied by a leather thong woven into the skull pock. The men wore only a loincloth, and their bodies were oiled to a gloss. Their skin was sunburned, but seemed lighter than most Keshians, with a reddish cast. Most of the men were dark-haired. Then behind came younger men who wore their hair long, tied behind in imitation of the horsehair foal, but with ringlets loose at the ears. These wore brightly coloured leather armour and wide flaring at the top, giving them an exaggerated breadth of shoulder. They also wore only loincloths, rather than trousers. All wore soft leather boots tied at the mid-calf. Erlon stopped his party for a moment. Coffee, who are they? Coffee could barely conceal his contempt. Ashuntar horsemen, my prince. Lord Ravi is master of the Brothers of the Horse. They are an order of cavalry who are descended from the finest warriors in the nation of Ashunta. Good field. They are among the most difficult people. Coffee realized he almost let an opinion slip and said, They were conquered with great difficulty, Lord, and still hold strongly to their own traditional identity. It is only because they have been allowed to rise highly in the court that they remain loyal to the Empire. And because their city-state is on the wrong side of the girdle of Kesh, added James, with a humorous feeling to his thoughts. Abba Bukar, the Empress's general, had to threaten them to get them to put cavalry in the field against the rebellious Confederacy, according to our reports. As the group resumed their travels to the bottom of the amphitheatre, Erlon said, I don't see any women. Is there a reason for that? Coffee said, The Ashuntai people are strange. Their women, he glanced at Kamina as if not wishing to give offence. Their women are considered property. They are bartered and bought and sold. The Ashuntai do not count them human. If Coffee found this distasteful, he hid it well. Erlon couldn't resist the opportunity. Isn't it true that your own people give women little freedom? Coffee's dark skin coloured as the blood rose to his cheeks. It does appear so, Highness, as we have been taught by our forefathers. But we are also a people who have learned from our neighbours, and we no longer trade our daughters for camels. He glanced over his shoulder to the box where Lord Ravi's company sat. But those sell their female children, as if a woman troubles a man. He is free to do so, with her as he wishes, including killing her. They are taught to despise warm feelings and to love a woman is to be weak. Desire and lust they count necessary for breeding sons, but love is... Coffee shrugged. Among my own people we have a saying, even if the most high-born man is but a servant in his own bedchamber, many of our best rulers took counsel in the arms of their wives, to benefit of their own nation. But those, Coffee glanced down, Forgive me, but I do not mean to lecture. No, said Gamina. By all means, I find this fascinating. To the other she said, he has a personal dislike, the Ashuntai, that goes beyond any objection of their social custom. He hates them. Coffee said, a long time ago, when I was a boy, my father served she who is Kesh, honor upon her line, before me. Here, I came to know the one who is Lord Ravi's son. We were boys in the palace, and that is all we knew. Ravi's son, Ranavi, was a fine boy, and we used to ride together. It is an open question who are the best horsemen in the Empire, the Arshunti, or we of Yalpur. We could often race our horses through the grasslands beyond the city gate as his Ashunti pony and my desert horse. We became friends after a fashion. There was a girl, an Ashunti girl, who I came to know. Keeping his face a mask, Coffee said, I attempted to barter for her, in their fashion, but Ravi made her a prize for one of their festivals. She was won by one of their warriors, and he took her to his home. It was this warrior's third or fourth wife, I believe. He waved his hand as if this were long ago, nearly forgotten incident. They bind their women with collars of leather and lead them on chains in public. They do not let them wear clothing save a loincloth, even in the cold weather. The fact of their being without clothing is of little importance to the true blood. But the Empress, as her mother before her, finds that their treatment at the hands of their husbands, sons, fathers personally distasteful. Lord Ravi and the others have enough political acumen to not bring down the Empress's disapproval, so their women are never brought to the palace. It has not always been so. The Empress's grandfather, it is said, had decided preference for the very young Ashunti girls. It is said that it is for the Ashunti's unwillingness to provide him with as many as he required for his amusement that the Brotherhood of the Horse was allowed to rise so high in the court of the Empire. Upon such things are the strengths of nations founded, Lockie remarked dryly. It is so, replied Coffee. Joker, hello my friend, how you doing? Hope you're preparing for a spectacular weekend. They reached the bottom of the long ramp and a line of guards stood upon either side, keeping the crowds away from the staging area, for those who would enter would be presented to the court. Erlon's guards were waiting for him below, wearing the full dress uniform of the kingdom, and the badge of the Royal Krondorian Palace upon their chests. Erlon noted with some amusement the Quagian delegate stood behind his men, fuming at the Kingdom of the Isles for being given precedence over his own nation. Erlon returned his attention to Coffee's story. Irfani sought to steal the girl from me as a gift. It was also a part of their culture that if you can successfully steal a woman from a rival, carrying her away to your own home, you may keep her. Ranavi was not quite 17 years of age when he attempted to steal his own sister from the man who had won her from the festival. He died in the attempt. Without a note of bitterness or emotion, he spoke. Coffee said, This, you can see, is why I have some difficulty appreciating the better qualities of the Ashanti. Softly he said, whatever they may be. Kamina looked at the desert man with sympathy, but said nothing. They had been standing in place for 10 minutes, waiting to move up to the entrance to the amphitheater, but no one had spoken since Coffee had related the story of his friend. Locklear decided it was a good time to change the subject. My Lord Coffee, where are the delegates from the Free Cities? Absent, my lord, answered Coffee. They would not send anyone to the Jubilee. Those people who were once were Imperial Bosania still have no official dealings with the Empire. Old grudges die hard, said James. Erlon said, I don't understand. Craig and the Empire have had 3 wars in my lifetime, and there have been several border skirmishes between the Isles and Kesh. Why is it different with the Free Cities? As they moved into place in the procession, Coffee said, "Those who live in what you call the Free Cities were once our loyal subjects. When the first revolt of the Confederacy occurred ages past, Kesh stripped all their garrisons north of Yalpur, leaving those colonists to fend for themselves. Queg, on the other hand, had successfully revolted a decade before. Queg is a successful revolutionary nation. Your own kingdom were always foreign, but the Free Cities are a people who were betrayed by their own rulers. They were farmers and tavern keepers left to defend themselves." Erlon thought about this as they moved forward a few steps in anticipation of being announced. He glanced at the upper gallery and saw it was quickly filling as the last of the lords and masters were entering. What was Bassania? Part of which was now the kingdom's own duchy of Crity, conquered by Erlon's own great-great-grandfather, was a terribly harsh land, inhabited by goblins, trolls, and Brotherhood of the Dark Path. Without soldiers, it must have been years of constant struggle just to survive. Erlon could understand why those Free Cities would still hold a grudge against the Empire. Then he heard his name announced and Coffee said, "Highness, it is time." As one, the entire company set off, only Gamina not walking in military step. As they trod the flat stone of the amphitheatre, it took a full 5 minutes to cross the vast base of the bowl. But at last, under the scorching sun of Kesh, the Prince of the Isles was formally presented to the Empress of Kesh. And not until this moment did Erlon really understand what had been true since Boric's disappearance. He, not his brother, now stood before the mightiest ruler of the world, and someday might find her successor his deadliest enemy, for he, not Boric, would someday be king of the Isles. And not since he had been a little boy held in his mother's arms had Erlon felt so frightened. Well, my weekend's gonna be fun. I'm gonna hang out at home and just read a book. That's the best kind of weekend to have, Joker. Best kind of weekend to have. The presentation went by in a blur. Erlon hardly recalled being introduced to the formal court and could hardly remember speaking the words he'd been forced to memorize. And no one remarked or laughed. He assumed that he had said them properly and couldn't remember what the delegation behind him had said. He now sat at the lowest level of the amphitheatre on a bench of stone set aside for the delegates who came to offer wishes of health and prosperity to the Empress on her 75th Jubilee. Trying to focus himself despite his unexpected attack of fear, he said, "Coffee, why has the festival been held off this long past Banapis?" Coffee said, "Unlike your people, we of Kesh do not count the festival of Midsummer as the date of our birth. Here, each man who knows it celebrates the event of his birth on the day he was born. So, as she who is Kesh was given to the world by the gods on the 15th day of Dezanan, so her birth is celebrated upon that day. It will be the last day of the Jubilee." Erlon said, "How odd, to celebrate your birthday on the actual day you were born. Why, there must be a dozen little celebrations each day. I would feel cheated if I were to miss the great festival at Banapis." "Different customs," Locklear remarked. A servant wearing a garb of true blood appeared before the prince and bowed low. He held out a scroll sealed with a golden ribbon. Coffee, acting as the official guide and protocol officer, took the scroll. He glanced at the wax seal and said, "I suspect this is personal." Erlon said, "Why?" "It bears the chop of Princess Sharara." He passed it to Erlon, who pulled on the ribbon, breaking the seal. He read the immaculate script slowly, as he had never been gifted in the written language of the Imperial Ketch. As he read, Gamina began to laugh. James turned suddenly, fearful for an instant that his wife was inadvertently revealing her ability to hear thoughts. But as he did, Gamina said, "Hey, Erlon, I swear you're blushing." Erlon smiled, putting the scroll into his belt. "Ah, just the sun, I suspect," he said, but he couldn't hide the embarrassed smile that refused to leave his mouth alone. "What is it?" said Locklear playfully. An invitation," said Erlon. "For what?" asked Locklear. "We dine in formal reception with the Empress tonight." Unable to keep from grinning, Erlon said, "It's for after dinner." James and Locklear exchanged knowing glances, and then Locklear said, "Coffee, is that how True Blood make arrangements to call on each other, I mean?" Coffee shrugged. "It is not unheard of, though the princess, being so highly born, can stretch the boundaries of decorum more than others, if you follow." "What about the Princess Sogiana?" asked Locklear. James grinned. "I was wondering when you'd get around to that one." Camina narrowed her eyes a bit. "That one?" "A figure of speech, my love. Locklear is known in court for trying to, get to know every pretty woman that comes into view," Coffee said. "If you send a note requesting a meeting with the princess, be prepared for it to be but one of many. Besides, it is said that these days she is spending time with Lord Ravi, so I expect your note would be politely ignored." Locklear sat back, attempting to find a comfortable position on the stone, hard and unyielding despite the ornate cushion placed atop. "Well, I guess I'll just have to find a way to get to meet her, I expect. Once I have a chance to speak with her." Coffee made a gesture forward. Things happen. Again. Malish. James glanced at Erlon, who was off in a world of his own. To Gamina, James silently said, "Coffee isn't saying something about the Princess Sogiana. Can you tell what it is?" "No," she answered. "But I have an impression at the mention of her name." "What is it?" "Extreme danger." And so ends Chapter 13 A Prince of the Blood. And just in time for another ad break. Huzzah. We got up just in time. Just in time. All right, I don't think we're going to have time for another chapter because the next chapter is quite long. It's over 20 pages. Let's go ahead and run those ads for our Twitch friends. I love the fact that we can share stories from around the world and connect with our brothers and sisters from afar. What a wonderful age that we live in. It is truly a brilliant and magical thing, isn't it? That we have these magical portals through which the tavern can tell you all stories and you can all share your own. It is truly a privileged and magical time that we live in, I will say. And the lady and I feel incredibly privileged and proud to be able to do what we do. Getting to share stories from all over the world with you guys is absolutely a wonderful and beautiful thing. I can't imagine. I could not have imagined ages ago being able to do what we do today. It is a wonderful thing, and the lady and I, we can't imagine doing anything else. So I think we're going to let the ads run. We'll waffle for a minute, and then I will send you all off on your way, since I am a bit tuckered out. Still not above it all. Tonight was very much needed with everything going on. Thank you, Castle and Tavern family, for being here. I do need to break away and tend to things around here for now, so that I can try and sleep once more. Frost, I know it's a lot to ask, but I hope that you sleep well, my friend. I hope that you have a good night, and that even with all that is going on, you can find some respite, and even some joy in your rest and dreams. And I feel equally blessed that you found us, Bear. For all of you who make the tavern what it is, I am I am blessed and grateful for it all. And I thank you all for it. And our wonderful barkeeps, the Bear, Frost, Matty, holding it up. I will say I'm making some progress. It's just very slow at the moment. Progress is progress. The point is to move forward, not to necessarily move forward quickly, my friend. And I'm glad that you are finding that progress, however slow it may be. I think we can manage a song or two. Again, I'm still a bit beneath the weather, but I think that we can manage. I think we can manage a song or two. I can't promise my voice will be in tip-top shape, but when is it ever, right? So, yeah, our ads have just finished up over on Twitch. So let's go ahead and get a couple of songs. Thank you for the stories. I will have to look for the book. Rest well in pleasant dreams to the lady and the kitty. Songbird, I appreciate you. If you are going to look for the book, I actually recommend starting from the beginning, which is the first book is called Magician, and it's by Raymond E. Feist. I think I have that right. Yes, by Raymond E. Feist, right there. Magician is this is probably the least good of the 5 that we've read, but Magician is brilliant. It's a very slow burn. It's very long. It's comparable in length to the Lord of the Rings, but it does not have the same pacing as Lord of the Rings. The first third of the book easily is most definitely it's a slow burn. It's well written, but it's slow. But it is worth it. If you're willing to get through that slow burn, it's definitely worth it. Don't overtax. I promise I won't. I promise I won't. I am feeling the exhaustion of the last couple of days, but I'm good. Blessing to all my new tavern friends. Tanith, it is wonderful that we have you. If ever you want to be the more active of the discussions happens over on the Twitch portal, and we open up the portals on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Kick, and TikTok. So whichever is your best viewing platform, that is, all the portals are open. The most active conversation happens on Twitch. That's where the most folk tend to join in. But if you're happy with a little bit slower pace of the Facebook portal, you're welcome to stay there as well. And Facebook and YouTube are usually a little bit behind because there's a latency issue. So you get usually about 15 to 60 seconds behind everybody else. But as long as you're fine with it, then I'm fine with it. Joker, it's always wonderful to see you, brother. I hope you have a good night, and I hope your weekend is mighty enjoyable. What did we... Oh, I'm sorry, Clifford, you said, I know this is crossing rules, but I wonder how some of these characters from the book would react to the not-so-human characters of the Elder Scrolls series. Well, there are elves and dwarves and goblins and such in this world, but it is always interesting to postulate how characters would interact with characters from another world. I find it to be a fascinating one. Matty has returned just in time for songs. I'm on TikTok and Facebook. Well, see, there you go. Whichever is your most preferred viewing platform, and you already, I presume, enjoy the short story times, which is why you're here, and you can find those on any of the platforms. So, all right, friends, I think I have the energy for 2 songs. What 2 songs should we do? Let's try to do something we haven't done in a while. I need to get back to my learning because I haven't learned any new songs in a while. I have a whole list I need to learn. But what 2 songs should we do for the night? We just recently did the Scotsman. I'm okay doing a funny one, but we just recently did the Scotsman. So let's think of a different silly one we could do. We could do Peter Street. We haven't done Peter Street in a while. We just recently did Donald Wears Your Trousers 2. We do the Sick Note all the time. The Sick Note's probably one of the most requested ones we get. We just did The Mermaid, I think, couple of nights ago. We just did Red is the Rose 2, but we could do one more pull or we haven't done Moby Duck in a while. Moby Duck we could do. Maybe a sea shanty. Yeah, we could do. We haven't done Tale of the Shadow in a while. So let's see. I think we could probably do Moby Duck, Peter Street, and Tale of the Shadow. I think that those would be fine to end the night off on. Let's start off with Moby Duck. I like Moby Duck a lot. Now, if any of you have never heard the lyrics to Moby Duck, it is a silly song. It is by the Longest Johns, and it is hilarious. But we're gonna mute the background music. Yeah, I haven't learned any new songs recently because of how busy things have been, but I'm gonna get back to practicing new songs so that we have more to add to the playlist, if you will. All right. If you know the words, sing along. If you've never been in before, at the end of every story time, used to be we did them in the middle at the end, but now at the end of every story time, we do songs together. Now we don't sing well; we just sing because we enjoy it. So don't expect some grand operatic performance. Yes, indeed you are, Bear. Yes, indeed you are. I never would have thought to do Moby Duck because I love this song, but it's not one I would have classified as like a traditional shanty. But it's such a funny song. Such a funny song. After 14 years, I left the sea for a life upon a lake. After all the storms I'd seen, I needed a good break. I thought still waters would mean peace for me, but that was a mistake. For the place I chose was bedeviled by a giant evil drake, a mallard of such mallets twice the size of any man, a bill to give you nightmares and a monstrous wingspan. You cannot hope to fight it, so avoid him if you can. The terrifying waterfowl, the beast beyond the dam. Row ho, row with all our might. Roll with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. I'm not one for surrender, so a vengeful oath I swore. I gathered up me hearties like so many times before. We shod our ship with weapons and prepared to go to war, till the fetid, feathered, fearsome flying duck would breathe no more. Row ho, row with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. There was bonny brave Marie, who to her arms had waved goodbye, and handsome Jack, whose duck attack left him without an eye. The Derby twins with one leg each on deck were standing by. Only a couple dozen limbs between a crew of 25. Row ho, with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. The fight raged on for several hours, defend and attack. With beating from those wicked wings, the boat began to crack. The beast reared up to finish the job, and with a mighty quack, I rammed my harpoon in his throat and made a tasty snack. Row ho, us back to shore. We'll drag his broken body back and roast it on an oar. Row ho, barbecue the beast. With hoys and sauce and pancakes, we'll have the biggest feast. Row ho, with all our might. We rowed with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, we had all the luck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. That's the Canadian goose. Not a fun or silly song, but are you familiar with the Waterboys song? A man is in love. I am not, Bear. Not off the top of my head, anyway. The Canadian goose Tanith, the proper name is Cobra Chicken. That's its scientific name, is Cobra Chicken. Yeah. All right. Next, we will do Peter Street. Peter Street is dear to my heart because it's about a man from my hometown. So we do the Irish Descendants version of Peter Street because that's my favorite version. Okay. Oh, you landsmen and you seamen, come listen to my song. It's of a trick once played on me, it won't delay you long. I came from sea the other day, a fair girl I did meet. She kindly asked me to a dance, was up on Peter Street. Oh no, says I, me fair maid, though I can dance quite well. Tonight I'm bound for Wicklow's town, it's where my people dwell. You'd better come with me, she said, for a distance is not far. And finding her so friendly, I jumped into a car. Well, as the dance was over, straight to the bed did go. Was a little did I ever think she'd pull my overthrow. Robbed my gold watch and £30, a pack of cigs, and fled, and left me there stark naked, lone upon the bed. Now when I awoke in the morning, it was nothing did I spy, but a woman shirt and apron upon the bed did lie. I wrung my hands, I tore my hair, I cried, what shall I do? Oh, tonight I'm bound for Wicklow's town, no more will I see you. Well, as the streets were lonesome at the hour of 2 o'clock, I put on that shirt and apron and marched down to the dock. The crew, they saw me coming, these words to me did say, my dear old chap, you struck a snap since you've been gone away. Are those the new spring fashions that the ladies were on shore? Where is the shop you bought 'em at, and is there any more? The captain on the quarter-deck looked at me with a frown, saying, Jack, my boy, you'd better suit than that for £30. I would, sir, if I could, sir, if I only got the chance. But I met a girl on Peter Street, and she asked me to a dance. She danced my heart's reception, I got robbed from head to feet. I'll take my oath no more, I'll go to a dance on Peter Street. So, you landsmen and you seamen, a warning take by me. Be sure to choose good company when you go out on spree. Be sure to choose good company, you'll find yourself like me, with a woman's shirt and apron for to fit you out for sea. Thank you for the song, my friends. Bear with the 500 bits, thank you kindly, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated, thank you, brother. Well, you got to have the quack. The quack is the most important part of the song, Clifford. All right, let's take a look at... All right, so next we were doing... Oh, Tyson requested Hoist Up the Thing. We could probably... I can do Hoist Up the Thing. Yeah, we'll do Hoist Up the Thing, and then we'll end off on the Tale of the Shadow. Hoist Up the Thing's not too bad. Another Longest John song. We do a lot of Longest John songs around here. Cue the drums to that song. All right. Hoist Up the Thing by the Longest Johns. Another one of their 2020 hits. About a young man who fudges his credentials and gets a job as a captain on a ship. Fresh out of college with grades straight from hell, I browsed for a trade at which I could excel. An ad for a ship in need of some manning, men sails in purpose but lacking a captain. What luck, says I, to find such good fortune. A few white lies later I ran down the pier. I bought me a coat and a cutlass or two. I jumped on the deck and I looked at the crew. And I yelled at the crew, hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it. What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. 1 hydrate. 2 hydrates, around for the tavern. And then a tiny sip for Matty. Sláinte, my friends. I can't sing the shanties, it has to be said, and all of that grog, it goes right to my head. Whale meat is gross, and I miss a girl's laugh. 5 weeks at sea, and even Dave seems a catch. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it. What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. We've hit icy waters, no land to be seen. The food's getting low and the beer has gone green. There's murmurs of discontent under the deck. If I don't act fast, it could be my neck. So pull up the charts and those weird gold machines. I see what it says, but I've no clue what it means. Yank on some levers and pull on some chains. Feign a bad back till we've landed again. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it. What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it. What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. Is this jail? Now you've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Ah, help! Trust me, I'm in control. Because obviously he'd get arrested. He impersonated a captain. I may have fallen asleep, woke up in time for shanties. Yes, you did. Jacob, yes, you did. Welcome back. Final song of the evening is going to be The Tale of the Shadow. Which is not a silly song. This one's actually it's more of a storybook song than anything else. I just remember that one line we drowned you, yeah. I set upon the sea. Wait, this is Sail North. This is a different band. This is Sail North. I set upon the sea to search for phantom sails from tales me mum told me. A ghostly galleon filled with gold she sails alone. No crew, no captain's guide in hand can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Sun and horizon met. I weighed the anchor, hoisted sails, my course was set. My cutthroat crew conspiring with the stars our guide. They point the way through perils fraught and lead us to the one they call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all who tried to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. A mighty tempest grew. The banshee cried, turn back, but our resolve was true. We pointed bow ahead and shouted, we'll break through. The jaws of hell can't hold us back. There's nothing that can keep us from the Shadow. The winds blew stronger still. The ocean raged against us, tried to break our will. The sirens in the water thirsty for the kill. Our vessel reeling to and fro, to bear us to the one they call the Shadow. None can keep us from the one they call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailor calls the Shadow. As thunder split the sky, the lightning drew a shape beyond the tempest's eye. Avast, I cried, all hands as we prepared to take the one they call the Shadow. As we approached her shell, the skies went silent, seas went calm, as if by spell. No signs of fight or flight were in her, all was well. Until I tried to take her helm. Her rigging came alive, she hung my crew before me as she stole my sight and cursed me captain of the Shadow. She took my eyes and cursed me captain of the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, steer clear of her, I fear she'll try To each a soldier take your life. Heave ho, to first light shall claim the soul of all who tried to tame the shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the shadow. Thank you for the song, my friends. My cat crawled up on me, with me on the couch, snuggled down, and I was out. That'll do it. Happens to the lady all the time. She'll sit down to snuggle with the cats, and then she's gone. She's out of there. Every time I hear the last chorus of this song, I imagine ropes grabbing all the people. Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a Pirates of the Caribbean film sort of image. It is up there. All right, my friends. Well, that is all I have for you this fine evening. I appreciate you all for joining me for Storytime. Everyone who stuck around to the end, thank you kindly, my friends. Always a pleasure and privilege to serve as your storyteller. If you're over on the Twitch portal, we're going to see if we can raid out and share the love. But for everyone else, this is where we end for the night, my friends. I appreciate you for joining us, and while it is such sweet and sad sorrow that we must part now, remember that we will gather again the very next time that you will seek a story. So until then, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, my friends, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Is a shroud on the sleeping glen. We lay out the bread for the healing of men. A silver shadow moves over the height. Breed carries embers to swallow the night. Her footsteps are soft as the falling of woe, while the moon o'er the she is heavy and full. Breathe life in the cold of the clay. Lead us from shadow and into the day, with the spark of the forge and the flow of the spring. Wake every winter-bound slumbering thing. The wheel is a-turning, the lights on the wing. She stands at the anvil where destiny is cast, to hammer the future and soften the past. With iron and fire she tempers the soul, to make what was broken vibrant and whole. The ice starts to weep at the touch of her hand, as the green fire of Imbolc awakens the land. Oh, breathe life in the cold of the clay. Lead us from shadow and into the day, with the spark of the forge and the flow of the spring. Wake every winter-bound slumbering thing. Cure for the weary, a song for the sage. A new leaf is turning on history's page. From the sacred well to the